Hello and welcome to Empires of Aether, the next great turn-based strategy board game that is attempting to be competitively viable and, of course, contributing to that competitive spirit as we are in the midst of our Season 1. We're still nerfing a few elements here and there. We're buffing a few elements here and there. And, of course, adding content, new ways to play elements that already exist. And elements that have been dominating the game thus far are fire and air. Some elements that are kind of getting thrown to the wayside, well, water after a couple of nerfs. And so, today's first June patch is here to address some of those concerns with more to follow. Understand, this is not the full extent of the changes we're expecting to experience, but today, we've got nerfs to fire, little nerf to air, adding a new line of abilities for fire and nature, and then adding monuments to 3 other nations. But what is coming on the other side of this is likely a whole new line of abilities for moon, arcane, and also nerfs to air and earth a little more formally. So that is what is to come. Let's dive into what is going to become active as of today. And the first bit is Fire's passive card. Fire has been an absolute dominant force, and now it is going to have the record for least amount of bullet points on its big card. It has been able to train cheapened armies from the Tier 1 stage, something that very few elements can do, and now we're going to slow it down a little bit. So now it can only train that army for a discounted rate once it hits Tier 2. And that is a massive nerf in and of itself. But I think you're going to see with these other abilities that we have in store for it that it's going to sort of bridge the gap for us here. In addition to that, another huge change, mountains no longer supplement Fire's attack stat. Only volcanoes will add to their dice roll. They're still going to add +2, but that means if you want to increase that combat stat, you're going to have to take volcanoes. Mountains aren't going to cut it. And so, with all that, we've got 6 new abilities, 2 from each tier that are going in for fire, including its monument. And what my whole perspective here is, yes, we're using a lot of the lore that just debuted last week, and I'll throw that link down in the description below if you guys haven't had a chance to take a look at that, if you're interested in that kind of thing. I wanted to pull from the lore to give it more of a thematic presence here and make fire play towards the center of the board. Because what fire has been doing is, yes, they're very aggressive. They take on boss monsters, but usually it's a kill and 2 boss monsters that gets them the win. And we've seen someone even from the Tier 1 stage able to do that. And so, taking that away a little bit, we learned that the general is an absolute beast, a one-man army. And so Searing Medallion is going to contribute to that fact. The general is going to be buffed up when he's alone, so that's going to allow you to go 2 separate directions in the early game, and your general is going to be a force to be reckoned with, only having an attack value of 15, though, attack and defense value. There's no dice roll associated with that. And then we also have another Tier 1 card that allows him to purchase a star tile for 2 and 2 and automatically place a barracks on it. So this is very interesting to play the middle of the board, get a jump on an opponent maybe. You place a barracks on it, you train a few soldiers, you still have Battle Cry at your disposal, you could jump 2 tiles away and attack an opponent. And with these nature abilities about to be brought into the fold, we're hoping that nature gets played a whole bunch more, even though it is getting nerfed at an incredibly high rate. I don't think it deserves that. But so hopefully nature is able to get played more, but this is going to be the counter card for nature. Convert up to 2 forests or rainforests adjacent to your units to field tiles. So fire is kind of the counter element to a couple different things. Now they can counter glacier, they can also counter nature. And then their monument. For 10 building materials on an own star tile, this tile will become a volcano to help them with that dice roll bonus that they're losing. Upon winning a star tile, recycle Battle Cry, regain access to it. Can't use it that turn, can use it the next turn, but still, just increase middle of the board presence. And then on top of that, any battle on a standard tile, if they win, will gain them 5 food. So they're wanting to be aggressive here with this monument. Then Hori's Gambit and Inferno, their Tier 3 late game cards. Pincer Movements, Pincer attacks have been asked for by several players in this game, which is really fun that people want that in the game. But we're going to give Fire the ability to do it twice, essentially. And so, Hori's Gambit is it's going to allow you to attack 1 tile from 2 separate tiles, essentially combining your efforts. So you divide and conquer when you're getting close to their capital, but if you're hitting a sweet spot where they put a lot of their eggs into one basket, you can essentially combine those forces into 1 attack there. So I think it's a really, really powerful ability. And then Inferno. Not sure how I like this one. This one is a requested ability from the Blue Shadow himself. If you activate this ability, you have 5 armies on one tile. Completely remove a tile from the board. All units or buildings on this tile will perish. It is a nuke to impact across the board. You're waging war on one side, this is going to allow you to make an impact on the other if something is happening outside of your grasp. So that is Fire's new perspective. Several nerfs here that I think is going to severely hinder its pick rate here for the next week or so, but I do think people are going to figure out that it's so very, very powerful. Air, we've got the big card here because it is going to be looked at here very closely in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully it gets a game or two more. But the most powerful card that is being abused is Gust, without a doubt. And so Gust, we put a limit on it. You can only push 5 units off of a tile, and the opponent picks where they go. Big nerf, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's definitely going to hinder Air's big play potential. When they hit the tier 2 swing abilities, they use Gust with that to do these kills on players from 3 tiles away. The Bobrick special, if you will. No longer going to be as much of a thing, because now we can push those units back to our capital and defend it, as opposed to the enemy Air Nation getting to pick where we go. And now we get to Nature, which I'm very, very excited for this, because this is a theme I've wanted to add for a long, long time, and it's not only going to be Nature that utilizes this, but you'll notice there's another bullet point here. Your beasts are classified as armies. Well, what are these beasts? Well, we've got a whole new line of units for Nature to craft, and that is in the form of animals. Nature has revolved around forests, but this build in particular is going to revolve around rainforests. And so it starts off with a tier 1 passive. They can convert forests to rainforest for 3 food and 3 BM, upping the production value. So essentially, we're buying a forest for 3/3. We're paying the difference to make it a 6/6. So we're paying the same price for it, and we're getting that rainforest production right out of the gate. But then all of these other abilities revolve around how many rainforests you own. You'll notice Macaw, you must own 1 rainforest, and it sort of parrots your opponent's advantage cards when you use it. Kerchak and Sabor, these are going to be specified beast units, classified as armies. For 10 food, you may spawn a gorilla. Gorillas always have a combat value of 25, and each gorilla forces your opponent to discard an advantage card when they attack. So it has a special ability built in. It's in the mid-range of that army, so it's not going to hit the peak stats that you're going for, but it's also guaranteed to not be a roll of a 1 for you, which is really interesting. And we've got Sabor, who is going to have a combat value of 15. However, it can attack from 2 tiles away. It doesn't get to move 2 tiles a turn. It gets to attack from 2 tiles away. So really, really interesting strategies to come out from this. Trashing the camp. It's a full Tarzan theme here, if you haven't caught on to that already. It's a full Tarzan theme. Up to 2 beasts in your general may teleport from 1 rainforest to any rainforest on the board. If owned by an opponent, combat immediately commences. And if you are victorious, steal 5 food and 5 BM from this opponent. Massive ability. But you have to own 3 rainforests to make it happen. And then we get to their late game abilities. We have one way to make a couple rainforests for us here, Equatorial Sightseeing, and then their new quest, We Built a Zoo. Own 10 beasts to acquire 1 win condition. It sounds like it's a lot of food to do that, but of course, if you're doing this from turn 3, then you can easily achieve this by turn 8 or so. Then we get into a tier 3 beast, Tantor, the elephant. For 10 food, you may spawn an elephant from a barracks. Whenever this elephant attacks, it automatically destroys a defensive structure. This could be just a basic DF, or it could be Blood's Castle. Very, very interesting here. And it always has a combat value of 30. So we're upping the value of this. The price stays the same. 10 food is a very food-heavy nation. But the combat value has increased from Gorillas for 25. Tantor is going to be at 30. And then Stampede. Select 1 owned tile. Up to 5 beasts on this tile may travel 3 tiles this turn. They must stay together, just as Stampedes do, right? They're running down the street with one another. Rest in peace, Mufasa. They must stay together. And then Druid is their new Titan pass, which I think is super fun. Your general can utilize the powers of any beast that you control. So if you own a leopard on the board, your general can attack from 2 tiles away. If you own an elephant on the board, it'll destroy a castle whenever it hits it. And if you own a gorilla, it'll also make your opponent remove an advantage card. So I think it's really, really fun. And then it also increases its combat value. The last thing we're going to mention in today's video are 3 monuments being added: Water, Glacier, and Magma. Glacier is getting picked quite frequently. I do think it's being played incorrectly a lot of the time. But it is one of those elements that's fairly easy to play. And so one of their deficits, of course, is the building material department. So you might wonder why this monument is going to ever see play whatsoever? Well, it's actually because this is going to give them access to an extra Blizzard by recycling the Phantom Minice, and also your Blizzard tiles will produce an extra food and BM each turn. So with this alone, before even considering recycling other abilities or other stuff happening, you're usually going to have 4 Blizzards, which means that's an extra 4 BM each turn that you weren't anticipating, which is going to help you get to that tier 3. But I think the most important factor about this is it does give you a tier 1 Blizzard back. Water's Trade Center, going upon their lore, is water is the trade center element of the world. Everyone uses their rivers to facilitate commerce, and so this is what their monument is going to do as well. This tile cannot be attacked by any opponent that is not tier 3, nor can the units in that tile attack in any other direction unless they are tier 3. And so it is a safe haven. It is a place of commerce and trading. Trades can occur here. But on top of that, the reason why Water wants to put it down is that this tile makes an additional 5 resources of any combination each turn. So if it's a mountain with a resource building on it, it's still going to produce those 4 BM, but then it's also going to produce that extra 5 resources. Do you want 5 BM? Do you want 5 food? Do you want 3 and 2, 2 and 3? Whatever you need in order to make that purchase the next turn, the Trade Center is going to get it done. Then we got the United States of Magmerica. Same price, same stipulation. It's an owned star tile, and magma units can teleport from any owned volcano to this star tile without using their movement for the turn to give magma a middle of the board presence and defend what is theirs. I really, really like this ability. Additionally, we're going to recycle a volcano from nothing. If I'm being honest, I think this is probably the most powerful out of the 3. Almost simply for the simple fact that you get a free volcano out of this the following turn when you get to utilize volcano from nothing again. If we find out that this ability is too powerful, it's probably just going to be to take off that last point. The teleport feature is already incredibly powerful. And so we might even just have to remove that second line at the end there. So that is the very, very quick changes to the elements that we're seeing in play right now. That is Empires of Aether, the June Patch 1. I hope you'll tune into our stream matches taking place almost every night this summer. Only a few days here and there where I'm out of town and we're not able to do them, but I'm hoping to get some guest casters online to do it while I'm away or when I'm unavailable. So that's that. Empires of Aether. Please check us out. Join our Discord community. Link is in the bio of this video as well. The description of this video. And we'll see you at the next table. Bye-bye.